little break right now.
Excellent. Okay, so we're live now. So I'm just going to wait. I can see on mine when people. Oh goodness, where's my other banners? I'm going to create a few more banners while we're waiting for people to arrive.
Okay.
I had thought I had, but I'm not seeing them all.
Okay. See all the comments that people put on Facebook on our comment stream on StreamYard?
I see them here, and if you have your if you had Facebook on your phone, you could read them there as well. But I might post a few today. I remembered that that's an option. Oh, we've got about 6 people joining us right now. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We're here with Will and Maggie, friends from Yellow Farmhouse. Will is one of our amazing educators at the Yellow Farmhouse. A lot of you may know him.
So nice to be back doing cooking classes.
Yes, it's nice to have you back. So I think friends will start to see more guests on with us. So I'm writing a couple more banners for the class today so that I can put up the ingredients. So I'm writing up the ingredients right now for the salt dough. I don't know. Oh, I did it. Never mind. I had already done it. Okay. So let's see who we have here. We have Coco and Renee are here. Hey guys, how are you? And Cami and Marin are here. And Olivia's with us again today. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's just me today. No kids on my end. They're all outside. And Valia is here as well. Good morning. And we're here with Will. Will, you want to say a quick hello?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be cooking with people again.
Yeah, Will is an educator from the Yellow Farmhouse, and he's there with Maggie, who's a teacher. And she's going to join us today and cook with us also. So we've got about 10 people joining us. I'm going to put up the banner that says to get your oven preheated to 425. If you can go ahead and do that now, if you're going to make biscuits with us. We can start to get our oven preheated. And we're going to make cheddar biscuits, which are delicious and good to eat right away. So it'll be a quick turnaround there. And then we're also going to make some salt dough. And I have an idea for some ornaments that we might be able to make that sort of fit in with some of the things that different towns are doing locally. And can you guys see behind me what it says on the wall there? Will, can you read that?
I can read it now.
It says,
a little sign though.
We want a dog. Last night the kids, in a very funny way, got together and put signs up on just about every surface of the house. There's
That's
little,
so funny.
And I keep finding them. We had them on our backs. They're like on our mirrors. They're everywhere.
I've seen various signage around town from like Community Strong to people who post some sort of like feel good quote, but I want a dog is the one I can relate to most right now.
Yes. Oh, and so Nana's here. Hi, Nana. That's Nancy Sachs, who's the kids' Nana. And Cole and Maxwell are actually watching from afar today. I think they took a little being outside.
Right.
Awesome. I think we can go ahead and start our dough and our the ingredients. I'm going to move my here's another sign. Let's see if we can see it here.
On the microwave.
On the microwave. They're everywhere. Okay, so we're preheating our oven to 425. And we're going to go ahead and get started to make our cheddar biscuits. Will, do you make biscuits a lot at home?
I can't say that I do. We're usually gluten-free and dairy-free, so that kind of rules out biscuits. But
we're going to make an exception today?
We're making an exception today.
Okay. So I make biscuits here and there, and I'm sure some of you out there are expert biscuit makers. So please share your tips and ideas and ways to make them more tender and fluffier and all of the good things that we like. I went searching yesterday for a biscuit recipe because sometimes in our classes we make these kale and cheddar scones, and I thought those would be fun, but they're a little bit hard to make in a short amount of time, and they're a little bit tricky to demo on this platform. So I was looking for a really easy recipe, and I came across the King Arthur flour website, and they have some really easy, great recipes on there. And they also have these amazing tips for substitutions you can make for different kinds of flour. I also was in touch last night with Katie Clark, who is the baker at the wonderful restaurants locally, Engine Room, Grass and Bone, Oyster Club. She does the desserts, and she was giving me a lot of tips on different substitutions. So I'll share some of those ideas as well. Hopefully we can persuade her to join us one of these days. So the website for King Arthur flour is just kingarthurflour.com. And like I said, they have some great recipes. So I found a really easy one that just has 3 ingredients. This is 2 cups of flour, 4 ounces of cheddar cheese, and a cup of heavy cream. And when I talked to Katie yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and put those that banner up so that we have it. When I talked to Katie yesterday, she told me a couple things about the substitutions, because on the King Arthur site, it says to use self-rising flour. And I'm not sure if anybody has self-rising flour at home. She said she uses that quite a bit in the restaurants, but it's not something I have. The only thing I have is, actually it's King Arthur flour, but it's the just the all-purpose flour. And so self-rising flour has flour, salt, and baking powder in it. So use regular flour, we just have to make a little bit of a substitution there. So I think we can go ahead and get started. We're going to do 2 cups of flour. But hold on one second. Let's see if I have it here. Yeah, it's going to be 2 cups of flour, but we're going to actually, when we measure the 2 cups, we're going to measure that completely, and then we're going to remove 2 tablespoons. Okay, so it's 2 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons. So we'll start by doing that. And I have a couple of comments here. Let's see what we got. Oh, and Sue is here, and she says that she loves our cooking show. Thank you, Sue. It's nice to see you.
Thanks, Sue.
And Kristen Conway is here as well. Awesome. We have so many friends today. Okay. So 2 cups of flour. All right, and I figured out also how to post your comments. So if anybody has a comment or something that they've done when they make biscuits at home, I'll go ahead and post that as well so everybody can see. Okay, so we're adding 1 cup of flour to our bowl, and we're adding a 2nd cup of flour, just like that. And we're going to remove 2 tablespoons and put it back, because I'm using all-purpose flour. Now, if you're using self-rising flour, just keep the 2 cups in there. Okay. So there's our flour. And then to the flour, we're going to add a tablespoon of baking powder. And if you remember, if anybody joined us for one of the first classes, we showed what happens when you do baking powder and vinegar. You get all those bubbles. So the baking powder is what's going to make your biscuits nice and fluffy and help them to rise.
That was 1 tablespoon, Jen?
1 tablespoon, and that should still be up on the screen there.
Good.
Can you guys see that still?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. And then we're also going to add a teaspoon of salt, which I'm going to use my kosher salt here. And that can just kind of get stirred together. And I had grabbed all my spoons but left them on the counter.
Grab a spoon.
And so I'm just going to kind of stir that together and set it aside for now. Oh, thank you for appreciating the screen banners. We're going to get better and better at this as we go along. I think we have some time to perfect our Facebook live stream. So we'll keep working on it. Thanks, David, for letting us know you liked it. Okay, so I'm setting that aside. And then the next thing we need to do is to grate our cheddar cheese. Now, I wanted to mention, if you have a food processor at home and you want to use that, you can, at this point, get your cheese into a food processor and just kind of grind it up that way until it's like into a few chunks, and then you would put the flour in, and when it's smooth, or like the cheese is like really finely chopped, you can add your milk. So if you want to use a food processor, go ahead and get the cheese cut into a couple chunks with the flour into your food processor. I'm going to use a grater instead to grate my cheese. And this is actually a really good tip if you're cooking at home with kids and you don't have a food processor. When we do our kale and cheddar scones, which calls for a lot of butter, we actually grate our butter and stick it in the freezer. And when we do that, when we stick it in the freezer, you can actually just put that right in, and it's almost as if you've already using a food processor. It's just a really easy way to get your butter into the very small pieces. So very cold butter, grated, and then put back in the freezer. Okay.
Clever idea.
Good morning, Aunt Liz. How are you? Love to see so many family here. Okay, so the cheese, we're doing 4 ounces of grated cheese. I'm going to write this up here. I meant to do this before. Apologies. Or about 1 cup. We're going to add that banner, and we're going to show that. So when you look at your packaging for the cheese, this is 6 ounces. So I'm going to use just about a half of it. And I just need to grab a knife to cut it in half to make about 1 cup of grated cheese. And here's another option. If you don't want to do cheese, you don't have cheese, you can switch and use butter and just make these butter biscuits. And so if you wanted to do just butter, you would do 2 cups of flour, and then you would do the, as we did with the self-rising. So that's like 2 cups minus 2 tablespoons plus a tablespoon of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt. And then you would use 4 tablespoons of butter, chop that up into small pieces, and work it into your flour until you get little crumbles. I'm using this grater, which if we ever could go to the store again, and you can go to IKEA, this is from IKEA, and it's a really amazing grater to use with little kids because it has this little container that snaps right in, and you sit it on its side instead of upright, and it's just a lot easier for grating. So I'm going to go ahead and grate my cheese. How's everybody doing out there? How are you guys doing, Will?
We're doing well over here. We've got our cheese added. We think we have the perfect amount of cheese, which we don't usually carry, but we happen to have in this desperate situation. So that's great. I don't know if is now the time to add hearty greens if you have them.
Oh yeah. So Will and I were talking about this yesterday about whether we were going to we were thinking about making these kale and cheddar scones, which we've made in the past. And for that, we tear up little pieces of kale and add it to our batter. And yes, you could probably do that now when you add the cheese. So Will, what greens are you going to add? So I should mention, if anybody wanted to add like spinach or kale, if you tear it up into tiny little pieces, another great job for little kids, and add it to your dough and cheese mixture, that's a great way to just get a little greens into your recipe.
Apparently,
what are you going to add?
Spinach Day.
Did you hear that? Maggie said today is National Spinach Day. So if you have spinach, perfect.
National Spinach Day, awesome.
I went out and I foraged invasive garlic mustard. So we don't have any fresh greens left in our refrigerator at this point, and we don't have fresh herbs either. So I've kept an eye out as I've been making my walks around town for any sort of wild edible, and this garlic mustard is everywhere. So I found this growing along a fence in the parking lot in the borough, and I'm sure you guys can find it easily in your yard. So I'm holding it up, the leaf here. Let me find the camera there. So it has these frilly edges, and it's not a complete circle. It opens up right at the bottom there. And I know my mom's watching, so I'm going to speak directly to her. This is the plant that is all over Grandma's yard, Grammy Marge's yard. So you could go pick this right now. I know it's back there. And it's called garlic mustard. It's invasive, so you'd be doing a service to the environment by eating it. and it's oniony. So it's kind of has like the flavor of a chive.
Is it spicy?
It's not too powerful. I think that this time of year, it's at its most mild. When it gets hot, it starts to get bitter.
I love it. And you know, the other thing that we harvested last year, and I know my Aunt Liz was here for this part, is we used wild garlic.
Yes.
That's starting to pop up now as well. That would be really good too. Okay, so Amy's asking if we should put any of this into the flour now. Yes, so once you've grated your cheese, which I just finished doing, and again, it's about 1 cup. So I'll kind of do a loose measurement here and see how we are doing. Yep, I've got a little bit more than a cup. Okay. You're going to add this, the grated cheese into the flour and just kind of toss it together with the flour. Okay, so I'm going to move some of my ingredients to the side so I have some clearing here. So add your cheddar cheese or whatever hard cheese that you grated in with your flour. If you have any of those tossed of those greens, you can add it in. Will, do you guys have, can you hold yours up so we can see what yours is looking like?
Yeah, ours is just kind of a little handful here.
Okay, and so you could just kind of toss it together with your flour. Kale and cheddar cheese is great, Amy asked. So yes, if you wanted to, at this point, tear up little pieces of kale and add it to your biscuits, it's going to be delicious. You could add little bits of green onions. You could add a little bit of spinach if you wanted to, or if you're like Will and you went out into your front yard and found some delicious mustard greens, you can tear that up and add it as well.
Dandelion greens are...
Oh, that would be delicious. Yeah. Dandelions are just starting to come up now. And dandelion greens are, they're actually our logo, dandelions, because we love to talk about how amazing dandelions are as a plant. And this time of year is kind of a perfect time to start seeing them. They're one of the first foods or sources of nectars for bees. So if you see a dandelion out in your yard, it's not a bad idea to leave it there and let the bees feast on it, because they're coming out of their hives and looking for they're coming to look for some nectar. The greens are really delicious, especially in the spring. And Marin says they're adding chives from our garden. That's amazing. And the garlic scapes. Oh yeah, Aunt Liz, thank you. You were there for the garlic scapes. Those were really fun. But by the end of the week, Will, I think you were with me for those, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the week, we were really tired of cleaning wild garlic.
Yeah. I picked a bunch last night and I put them in a little chickpea flour flatbread that we make sometimes. And I just trim the stems like chives. I don't mess with those little garlic bulbs anymore.
The little garlic bulbs. All right. Fair enough. That's amazing. Okay. And we have Sarah McNally on with us and Beth Bromley as well. Beth says, hi, Maggie and Will.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
And hi, Sarah is my mom. Hi, Mom.
Oh, thank you for bringing some new viewers today. Okay, so we've got our, oh, and I see Claire and Lucas are watching as well. Hi, Claire and Lucas. We have flour and we have cheese mixed together in our bowl. And the next thing we're going to do is add, it calls for 1 cup of heavy cream. So this was another thing that I asked Katie Clark, the amazing local baker, can you just substitute milk instead of cream? And the answer is yes, except that if it has a lower fat content, so let's say you have whole milk, or then you have like 1% milk or skim milk, the lower the fat content is, the less you need to add. So so this calls for about 1 cup of heavy cream. So I'm going to start with about 3/4 of a cup of milk because I don't have heavy cream. And then we'll see how it comes together. If we need to add more, we can add more. But that was going to make the flavor richer, and it's going to make it a little bit lighter. So mine are going to be a little bit more dense because I don't have heavy cream. I'm going to grab my milk.
And we're using almond milk over here.
Interesting. I'll be so curious to see how that is.
Yeah, experimenting all around with whatever we have to make it work.
Yeah. So I'm going to add a cup of I'm going to put a cup of milk into my measuring cup, but I'm only going to add about 3/4 of a cup to start. And you're just going to stir until you get sort of like a cohesive dough where it pulls together. Oh, Marin, low-fat buttermilk would be perfect. You absolutely can use that. And in fact, Katie mentioned that that's what she uses at the restaurants all the time. She uses buttermilk in a recipe very similar to that. Amy's using whole milk, so that's what I would do. So yeah, Amy, I'm going to start with 3/4 of a cup. And I actually have a banner for that. I'm going to use 3/4 of a cup and then see how that goes. So it says here 1 cup of heavy cream or milk, but start with 3/4 and stir it in, and then see if you need to add more. How is yours coming together with the almond milk? I'd be actually curious to see.
It looks really good. It smells like garlic and cheddar cheese. I think it's going to be delicious.
Okay.
We put about 3/4 of a cup in, and I think it's starting to look pretty good. I might feel it, but yeah, as far as biscuit dough goes, like we just kind of want it to be able to hold together and then crumble really easily. And I think we're there over here with just 3/4 of a cup of almond milk.
Okay. I'm pulling that together. Yeah, and the thing with biscuits is that you don't want to overwork it because they get a little tough. They're still going to be delicious. They just aren't as sort of like fluffy. And so mine is just coming together. Can you see it's sort of like coming into a dough? Can we see yours, Will?
Yeah.
Mine seems like it might need just a little bit more than 3/4 of a cup.
Yeah, I mean mine's pretty sticky.
You can always add a little more flour if it gets too wet. You know what? One other recipe I read said that when it comes away from the sides of the bowl, as you're stirring, that's when you know it's done. So mine is actually just coming away from the sides of the bowl. So I think that a little bit extra. So mine was almost a full cup of milk, and now mine actually looks like a dough. So I'm going to go back to the comments just to see if there's any questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so I ended up using about a little bit more than 3/4 of a cup. And then we're going to want to flour the surface of our cutting board just a little bit. There we go. And you're going to turn your dough onto a lightly floured surface.
I'm going to grab a little more flour, Maggie, just to flour this board.
Okay. Okay, so we've got our dough on the surface here. And you're gonna kind of, you don't really want it to knead it, because again, you don't want it to make it too tough. You want it to be kind of this loose, well, you want it to be a ball of dough, but you don't want to kind of smush it too much or work it too much, because it will start to get too tough. But at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to just kind of flatten your dough into a disc. So you make it into a ball first, and then you're going to flatten it into a disc. That's
Did you just lose me for a second?
What's that?
We just lost connection for a second. I don't know if you could still.
Okay, yeah, for a second, but I see you back again.
Okay.
So you're going to flatten your disc to be about 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, 3/4 to about an inch thick. The thicker your dough, the taller your biscuits will be. So up to you whether you want them to be really thick or a little thinner. Okay. How's everybody doing?
Good. This is what we're working with over
Good.
here.
I'm going to go raise my hands. Okay, perfect. Yours is looking great. And I think you guys can see mine on the screen there. Okay. So the next step we're going to do is to cut our biscuits into rounds. And I actually don't have a round cookie cutter. I have lots of Christmas and Hanukkah cutters. I have a unicorn cookie cutter, but no round one. So I'm just going to use a jar.
We have a jar of coconut oil. That's our.
Okay, perfect. And I'm going to just get a little bit of flour around, just so it doesn't stick around the edge of my jar. And just as a reminder, if anybody's joining us and didn't see it at the beginning, we're preheating our oven to 425. And you should be able to get about, it calls for about 12 to 17 biscuits. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to get that many.
I should flatten mine out a little bit more.
But that's with like a 2-inch round. And this is mine is definitely a little bigger than a 2-inch round.
Yeah. Okay.
So it depends on how big your cookie cutter is.
Do we need to put parchment or anything on the baking sheet?
No, it doesn't call to have anything on the baking sheet. So we should be good. Okay. And I've not used this recipe before, so we are kind of all in this one together. And so we're cutting ours into rounds. And now here's how if you want to, as you're placing them on your cookie sheet, or you can place them into like a cake round would work as well. If you put them close together, the sides will be soft. If you put them far apart, the sides will be crispier. So that's up to you how you want to handle that.
Try them together.
Crispy sides or soft sides?
I'm doing the soft sides. So we're just cutting ours into rounds. And adding them.
You could probably use the smaller cookie sheet.
Yeah, I'm using a giant cookie sheet and it's not necessary.
Yeah, we're going to go small.
Okay. And so we're kind of putting them all together like that. I've got now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I'm going to push my dough back together. All my scraps. And flatten it out again. And kind of try not to work it too much, but try to get my dough back together again. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, and then I'm going to start cutting again. Everybody's doing okay out there? Okay, so I've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I think I might be able to get 2 more out of this. So just short of the 12 that it says that it yields for me. How are you guys doing, Will?
Yeah, we're going to be right about the same. We've got 8 right now, and I'm going to push the dough together for like the 4th time to get 1 more out.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe 2.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I think we'll be able to get there's 10. And I think we'll get maybe 2 more. Maybe we'll get the full 12. And once you cut yours out, and if there are on your cookie sheet or in your tray, you can go ahead and brush the tops with some butter or cream.
We've got a brush.
That's the last thing you do. And then they're going to go in the oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. And that is it.
Should we brush them with this almond milk? No?
I don't know what that will do.
We're going to skip brushing them with almond milk.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think it'll be good.
All right, we'll try.
So I've got my brush here. I've got my leftover milk here, so I'll just go ahead and use that and just kind of sprinkle the tops with a little bit of milk. All right. And everybody looks like they're following along. And we'll get them in the oven. And then I'll show you how to make a quick salt dough, which we can use to make some crafts. Okay. There we go. All right, are you guys ready to go in the oven? Everybody's still following along. I'm going to put mine in the oven now. Okay, I think we're good. Any questions? Anybody have any?
Yes.
We're ready. Yep.
You guys are doing okay? It's so quiet here today. So when it's usually I'm sure you've seen a couple of them, but usually I have some kids with me. Laura's got some kids with her. and there's a little more mayhem. Today it just feels so calm. How is it at everybody else's house? Calm, I hope. Okay.
Sorry.
So are we ready to move on to our craft here?
We're doing okay. We're deciding we should put a high middle.
What's that, Will? We lost him a little bit. I had a question about how long to bake for. Will, I can't hear you right now. It's 15 to 18 minutes, or until, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right, until they're golden brown. So I'm going to put that up on the scrolling bar. We lost you for a second there, Will. Okay. Great. So you're going to bake them for 15 to 18 minutes until they're golden brown. And we also said, so Sarah said that hoping some of the neighbor kids will be able to try the recipe. I hope so as well.
More flour than that.
Okay. So for the salt dough, which is the last thing we're going to do.
I was just telling Maggie that we need a little more flour.
Yeah. So this recipe calls for a cup of flour, a half a cup of salt, and a half a cup of water. I'm actually going to cut that in half for me because I know that I don't need that much in terms of like my kids and how many we'll make. But salt dough is kind of this amazing dough that you can bake. Once you've cut it into shapes, you can bake it and they'll last kind of forever as these beautiful ornaments. A lot of times people make them at Christmas time as a craft.
Really?
Tree.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you a little bit. Some people make them for. I saw one for Easter that you can make them into Easter egg shapes, bake them, and then you could paint them after that. What I thought I might do. Every year at Thanksgiving, we make a tree out of branches that we find outside, and we sort of create this tree on our table out of branches that we tie together. And then after we've made our tree, I cut out these little shapes, and we hang things that we're thankful for on our tree. And so we have a thankful tree for the month before Thanksgiving. So each day we do one. And one of the thoughts I found this bell shape ornament, cookie cutter. And because so many towns, and Stonington being one of them, is ringing bells at 8 o'clock. If you haven't seen that, 8 o'clock, ring a bell or bang on a pot. I think I might make these ornaments with the bell and dry them. And when they're dry, I'll have my kids paint different wishes or hopes. And we might make a little hope tree for the next couple weeks while we're inside. So that's how I'm going to use it. But you are welcome to use it however you'd like. But here's the quick recipe. You're just mixing together a cup of flour. And like I said, I'm going to have my recipe just because I don't want to use up all my flour. And I know this will make enough for our family. So we're just going to put a half a cup of flour. And then instead of a half a cup of salt, I'm going to do a quarter of a cup of salt. And the salt just kind of preserves them and keeps them from, sort of getting any sort of moldy on them. So we're just going to do a half a cup of salt, or a quarter cup of salt, and I'm going to do a quarter cup of water. So I'm going to go grab my water. Then we just mix that together to make a dough. You could add food coloring at this point if you want to. Oh, Marin, I'm going to add your comment if that's okay. There we go. They ring their bells every night. Yeah, it's kind of this lovely thing. And I thought maybe we would just kind of keep that theme going with the craft in our house. So once you get your dough sort of pulled together like that, you just kind of use your hands to turn it into Play-Doh. And it's as easy as that. Really quick, sort of like a Play-Doh. And you can kind of use it as a Play-Doh, and it won't dry right away. But if you bake it, at 250 for about 2 hours, it'll get nice and dry. So once you've gotten, and hard, and it'll last for a really long time. So I'm gonna hide that comment now so we can see what we're doing here. Oh, the oven temp for the biscuits is 425. Amy asked the question, 425. Okay, so once you've made your dough, you put a little bit of flour down just to make sure it doesn't stick. Let's see, you can see that now. Okay, so the recipe for the salto should be up on the screen. So David, the recipe is 1 cup of flour, a half a cup of salt, a half a cup of water, and then you're gonna roll it and make it into shapes. And after you've done that, you can bake it at 250 for 2 hours to make them really hard. But you can also just kind of use it like this. So like I said, if you wanted to add food coloring, you could. But once you've got it nice and soft, and Will, it's pretty satisfying, right? I think we have not a great connection for Will, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Will, we can't hear you that well. We can see you. We can see that your dough looks really good, but it's hard to hear. Okay, so you just kind of roll it out nice and thin, just like that. And you can go ahead and use your cookie cutter to cut out some shapes. So there I have my bell. If you want to make them into ornaments, make sure you poke a hole on the top to turn them into ornaments. You can also use your fork to add some, or anything else. You could carve into them at this point and put names. You could do a handprint if you wanted to. So on this one, I don't know if it's too bright. There you go. You can see I put some texture around the edge. And all you do is you finish this up. You put them on a cookie sheet. Putting them on parchment is not a bad idea. If you have parchment, I saved some parchment from yesterday, so I'm gonna put that on my cookie sheet. Add my bells, and I'm going to poke holes in the top so I can make them into ornaments. And I'm gonna do 5, 1 for each person in our family. And maybe make a couple extra if I have extra. How's everybody doing on those? Is anybody making the salto at home? It's kind of this amazing quick dough that is wonderful for crafting. And you just pick up the rest. You can roll that back out again and keep on going. Okay. Before we go, I'm going to go grab my biscuits and see how they're doing. Show them to everybody, and then I think we are, oh, you guys made some there. Wonderful, and you put the holes on it. I can see that. We can't hear you, but we can see you. Wonderful. Let me see how my biscuits are doing. So I'm going to go grab them out of the oven and show them to you and let you know how they're doing. Okay, whoops, that's not the best. Okay. So we're getting there on our biscuits. I'm gonna go ahead and put them in. Mine need about 5 more minutes, and then they will be done and ready to eat. Excellent. Well, as always, it was lovely to see you all. Tomorrow, Laura will be back, and Will be joining us for a bunch of these going forward. If any of you at home want to join, we absolutely would love to have you, and we'll continue these, sort of ongoing. I know for a lot of people, virtual school has started, and we'll kind of check schedules and see if this time works, and if not, we'll find other times. But it was so great to see everybody, and thank you for joining us. Will, thanks for joining us today. Maggie, it was great to see you as well. Even if we can't hear you, it was great to see your smiling faces. So thanks for cooking with us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Send us pictures of your biscuits. Send us pictures of your ornaments when you're done, and we'll see you tomorrow. And I see one more note. Biscuits are good. We're going to have them for dinner with homemade corn chowder. Oh my goodness, that sounds amazing. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining in. Take care.